The National Security Advisor, NSA, Ribadu, yesterday said the negative use of social media constituted both local and global threats and as such presented an immediate national security priority. Ribadu disclosed that the National Security Strategy, NSS, was last reviewed in 2015 and a situation that gave rise to the launch of the 2019 version, which he now said is now under review. Ribadu spoke in Abuja at a meeting with spokespersons of organizations under the umbrella of Strategic Communication Interagency Policy Committee. He directed media managers in the defense, security, and response agencies to change their approach in engaging with public and countering disinformation from enemies of the country. Ribadu said members of the Strategic Communication Interagency Policy Committee must be proactive and strategic in national security communication management. He said the spokesperson in the security sector must address the worrying use of the social media platforms in creating division between citizens and the government at various levels. Ribadu also listed the preponderance of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation as threats to national security and public engagement. Dr. Bati.
Oh, okay. Well, the National Security Advisor was meeting with, spokespersons within the spectrum of national security. And he identified, and I think appropriately, I must make that point, that social media poses a threat to national security. In what regard? To the extent that you see a lot of misinformation, disinformation, black information on social media. All kinds of anonymous persons go on social media taking advantage of the anonymity that it offers to spew nonsense, ignorance, and to use it for all kinds of reasons, both political, personal, psychological, emotional, or whatever. Now, the National Security Advisor, in speaking to the spokespersons, now gave them a charge that they have to watch out for disinformation, for misinformation. Now, one of the beauties of social media is the freedom that it grants, the anonymity that it grants, the freedom that it grants. But what we have seen, not just in Nigeria, but elsewhere, is that this anonymity, this freedom that it offers is often abused. So the challenge in Nigeria, as is the case elsewhere, has been how to address the challenge of abuse, how to address the inflated ego of minority figures in the scale of things, who see the freedom that the internet offers them to abuse their own humanity. That, I think, is the angle from which the National Security Advisor is coming from. However, I think the National Security Advisor is in order to tell his team within the national security space to say, well, you have to address disinformation. You have to address misinformation in the sense in which it poses a threat locally and also globally, and in the sense in which it is connected to the issues of terrorism and banditry. After all, terrorists and bandits use the social media to affect public perception, public thinking, public psychology. And I take the point that Ribadu was making about how, within the spectrum, there are concerns about social relations, concerns about diplomacy, concerns about psychology and all that. So at the level of principle, I think Ribadu is right. The only thing to add is that he didn't go as far as calling for social media regulation. He did not say that. We have had that issue in this country before, since 2019, I think, when there was an anti-social media bill, a bill subsequently, I think, to address internet falsehoods by one Senator Mohammed Musa, Sani Musa, who was saying, look, we have to regulate social media. Now that generated a lot of interest from civil society that said, look, to regulate social media in Nigeria, will be to abbreviate the scope for human freedom, which is guaranteed under under Chapter 4 of the Constitution and Section 39 with regard to freedom of expression of the 1999 Constitution. Now, we've been debating this for the past few years. One of the solutions that has been proffered by Professor Wole Soyinka specifically is to say that perhaps we need to invest more in education, to educate our people, to educate all these people who go on to the internet trying to exploit the power that interconnectivity offers them, to just say things they would not ordinarily say under their names, to try to, misdirect the nation. However, the concern of the National Security Advisor, I note, is not regulation. So to that extent, it didn't go overboard. His main direction is to the spokespersons within the security space, that they have to be proactive. And I think nobody can argue with that. Proactivity is important. Oftentimes, when you are a government spokesperson, everybody within the space, they will accuse you, oh, you are not proactive enough. You should have been proactive, even by people who don't know the job, who don't know what it entails. But it's good to keep reminding spokespersons that proactivity is important and that misinformation, black information, disinformation could prove fatal to national security. I take that point. However, Ribadu said all of this within the context of what he described as the need for the review of the national security strategy. Now, the national security strategy is reviewed every 5 years. The last time it was reviewed was in 2019. Now, it is time for another review. Now, the question that Nigerians should ask is that what comes out of this review? We have this review all the time. What is the outcome? We expect to see improvement in the national security situation based on the review of the national security strategy. That should be Nuhu Ribadu's work. He should make sure that under his work as the national security coordination system reviews the national security strategy, that it is programmed to be result-oriented. Let them not bring a document to us in a few weeks and say we have reviewed the national security strategy. We will measure the impact of that review, of that audit, in terms of security, the welfare, the well-being of the people of Nigeria. Otherwise, it will just be another academic exercise.
Okay, a couple of things. I just hope I get ample time to be able to analyze this. At first, social media is not the problem. I'll take you back historically. There's a man called Rudolph William Hearst, the owner of the Hearst Corporation, was famous to have said, you give me the pictures, I'll furnish you with a narrative that will keep up the war. It is not today people have used media for all sorts of views. In fact, a lot of people don't know. The Pulitzer Prize that we celebrate today, the likes of Mr. Pulitzer were the founders of yellow journalism. The only difference is social media liberalized scale, which some big hegemons used to have the power of scale before. So the problem is not social media. The problem has always been society. The reflection of all of those bad things you see that are going on social media is a reflection of the hearts of the people. So when are the people going to purge their hearts? And that's why I subscribe to the line of through constant education and engagement. And where are you going to have that education? Is on social media and that engagement. Yes, you might say it's not far-reaching enough because some people might just shut you out and don't want to listen to you. But in the end, some people still pick vital things that they get to change. Our quote, Third World Cup, Ratty famously says, guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's not the social media that's the problem, it's the people on the social media that's the problem. Can we bring the social media company in to not give amplification to disastrous messaging on this platform? Yes. And it's a challenge some of them must take to be able to stop the madness that goes on there. But it's also a platform for acculturation, for people learning about the cultures of others. It's also a platform for elucidation. And I'm happy Nuhu Ribadu spoke about this, that government officials should be more proactive. Also, government agencies should not come and lie on social media. We've had many cases where they lie. I have been a victim of the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources calling me openly biased on social media. How do you think I'm going to take them seriously? So we've had a lot of government agencies that have come to say things that are questionable on social media, are used as a tool to lie. So they should not use also social media to lie. I'm talking about anonymity. There's no anonymity. If you post something that is not good, they will catch up with you because their IP addresses to every post you make. In no time, they're going to catch up with you. You think you can ride under the cloud of anonymity? Never. But ensure that what you put out there is fact. And if you don't put out fact, there are people that definitely will fact check you. There are people that have taken that responsibility constantly to constantly challenge the status quo. So there are a lot of ideas. In fact, Twitter has put in something in place that if you post something wrong, there can be a byline underneath that said it's not true. And this is the true information as regards it. But also, there's a collective effort across board. In the information chain, the government should not think it has the autonomy to be able to spew its own propaganda as against the people. Because my argument has constantly been, any platform that tells the truth that is different from what the government says, they're mostly attacked. Remember the military days when most of the newspapers were attacked and proscribed. Was it that those newspapers were not speaking the truth? No. But because we have a government on ground that wanted its own agenda to reign supreme. It's a platform. The question is, how can we make it better? We've talked about education. We've talked about taking out nefarious things from the platform. But it's also a platform that balances itself, because as you see people that are posting this agenda, then you're also seeing people countering them. That has always been the cadence of media. But most importantly, for you watching this morning, what can you do? Please, when you see any story posted, except you can check through 5 to 6 traditional media platforms and see if they corroborated that same story, don't believe it. For you that peddle ethnic agenda, ask yourself, is this going to help the growth and development of my country? Can this pitting Igbos against Yorubas and Hausa help us to grow and develop? Ask yourself the pertinent question. And most importantly, do not help them share things that will propagate evil and propagate division based on what you do not know. Only seek the facts. And how do you seek the facts? Go through empirical tools of seeking the facts. There are timestamps and some other tools there. It's all about us using it responsibly. But social media is never the problem.